Good afternoon. This is Charlotte Pierce, the producer of Ready Row USA. We are in our 93rd episode of podcasting and live streaming. We love doing this and investigating some of the topics that, like we're doing today, rowing to college, which is about taking your high school experience and leveraging it for college applications and reducing the stress in the meantime as much as possible. So rowing to college, we have Andrea Landry, the Holy Cross coach here. She's going to be talking from the coach's perspective. Hi, Andrea. How you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah, we won't ask you anything specific about Holy Cross, but we just wanted to have your perspective as a coach, and as we talk about, taking rowers from high school to college. And our consultants with Rowers Reach, Carmen, Mirochna. Am I saying that right?
Mirochna, but you're good.
Mirochna. And Fran Berlin. Hi, Fran's on top there.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. And again, I'm Charlotte Pierce, and I am the producer of Ready Row USA. What makes my job so much more fun is connecting with our audience. We have a live streaming audience, and then we pull the audio for distribution on audio podcast apps. So if you use this hashtag that you will hear toward the end of the show, because I like to encourage people to listen to the end, you will win gadgets and gear and services related to rowing. And we'd love to have you review us on your podcast apps, so Spotify, Google, Apple, SoundCloud, all those. And that helps us widen our reach and get our message out to more people. And like I said, you can win gadgets, gear, and services if you use the hashtag. So listen up. And if you're really good, you can scout around our internets and find that hashtag anytime. So don't worry about it too much. But all right, we are going to go to an interview that I did with our college rower, Brian O'Rourke, and he is not able to join us live because he's traveling to the IRAs. And Fran and the rest of you, IRA is
Intercollegiate Rowing Association.
Intercollegiate Rowing Association. Yeah, so he's doing that. He's a junior in college, and he's an amazing guy. So let me just run that now. And he says some great things. He's a graduate of Arlington-Belmont Crew, which is the two towns that merged for a high school rowing team in our region. So let me just
feel free to elaborate on any of them.
Yeah.
First of all, what attracted you to rowing, and what kept you rowing in high school?
Mostly what attracted me in the first place is I just needed something to do. I was a freshman in high school. All my friends were finding new activities, and a couple of them started rowing, and so I thought I would try it out. And I just kind of got hooked. Once I started, I never really had much of a desire to stop.
Right. And what did you like about this structure of the Arlington-Belmont Crew program, and what was challenging about it? And are you still connected to these people that you rowed with?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I liked about it was just the people. I mean, I was rowing with the same kids that I went to school with, and some of my closest friends, and so we would all go take classes together, and then go out and row together on the pond and race together on the weekends. And we formed some really tight, really meaningful friendships. And yeah, I'm definitely still in contact with a lot of those folks that I rowed with in high school. Most of the closest friends that I have from high school came from AB.
That's amazing. So you do have a kind of an intense bonding experience when you're in a sport like that. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right. And when did you start thinking about rowing in college? Did you have that as a goal as you went into your senior year?
You have good audio. but
Yeah,
not
so
great
I had some
synchronization.
friends on the team that were older than me, so I kind of had the opportunity to watch them go through the whole process,
Mhm.
and saw what their what their freshman years were like. What for those of them that decided to continue rowing in college, and so it was kind of in the back of my mind that whole time. And then when I started applying to colleges, I kind of realized that it was something I wanted to continue doing. So it was definitely something I was considering when I was touring schools and when I was thinking about where I wanted to spend the next 4 years.
Right. And did you do you feel like your high school rowing career was an asset on your college application, or did you even think about that?
It's hard for me to say. I like to think that it was.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time doing it, so I like to think that it was an asset. But I think mostly it was just, an asset for me. It helped me grow as a person, and it was a really meaningful experience for me. So regardless, I think it was time well spent.
Yeah. And did you did you were you in touch with a coach then, like when you were in high school, or did you?
When I was going through that whole process, there weren't too many coaches that were interested in me. I was in contact with a couple.
Mhm.
I wasn't recruited here at GW. I had been in contact with the coach beforehand, but
I see.
I wasn't really offered a spot. And then I applied to the school on my own and emailed him after I got in, and so he offered me a chance to try out for the team, and that's what I did.
So you really picked the college for the
Sorry, I
the
kind of
pro-
lost you there for a second.
Oh, so did you really pick the college for the program, or for?
My college career, that was a big draw. I was definitely considering the academic program, and the opportunity to row here was also a big draw.
Very cool. And the question it seems like rowing is so demanding. Do you feel like it's difficult to balance the athletic and academic requirements and responsibilities?
It's definitely a challenge. There are definitely times
Mhm.
where the two clash a little bit, and then you end up being a bit busy.
Mhm.
But pretty much everybody here does something outside of class. Everybody's involved with some sort of activity or some sort of organization or sport, but it's varsity, club, or intramural. So I think it's something that's almost inevitable that you sort of have to balance different aspects of your life.
Right, and good preparation for life in general, because it doesn't stop when you get out of college. That's so you're heading off to IRAs, and you're finished with classes right now, right?
Yeah, thankfully
Yeah.
we finished up finals about a week ago.
Awesome. Any closing things that you could give as advice to your former team or to high school students that might be listening to this? There's kind of this balance between choosing a school and, the academics, the athletics. Any
Performing at a certain race, important through the whole process to just sort of enjoy the process. It gets really stressful when you're applying to colleges and thinking about maybe getting recruited or performing at a certain race, beating a certain team, getting a certain placement. I think we often get caught up in those things, and I know for me, I was very caught up in those things. But I think it's important to just enjoy the process, enjoy day to day, because eventually you're going to go off to school or go off to college, or your rowing career is going to be over, and so it goes by pretty quick. And so I think it's just important to just enjoy the little things and take it day by day.
That is such good advice for life in general. If you can internalize that at this age, I think you're going to be okay. Well, best of luck at the IRAs, and
Thank you very much.
stay in touch, and we'd love to have you back from time to time and follow your career. And so,
All right. Isn't he amazing? I'm not hearing anybody. You can speak up if you.
Yeah, he said some really great things throughout that podcast. And I think one of the things that really stuck with me was when he said to enjoy the process. And really, that's kind of what we're about. We recommend to our students that they start early and also that they're not afraid to mobilize their resources to make that process enjoyable, because it can be. If you're looking to select a college, a university where you're going to grow and thrive over 4 years, that could be a really exciting process. So that really stuck with me.
And you and Fran, or you and Carmen really know what you're talking about, because you have a consulting business. Am I characterizing it correctly about coaching families and students in the rowing field as they apply to college?
Yes.
Is that
Yeah,
Carmen?
exactly.
Yes.
So yeah, exactly. So Carmen and I both rowed at the D1 level in college. We took our rowing to coaching after that. Carmen coached at, well, I'll let Carmen tell you, but I coached at Cornell University, which was my alma mater, as well as Indiana University and the University of Colorado. And after that, we really found that our passion was helping high school students and their families navigate the college recruiting process. So we kind of started with friends and family and have worked our way up since then.
And Carmen, anything to add to that? Or?
Sure. So along the same lines of what Fran observed, Brian did a really fantastic job articulating it from a high school perspective. It can be overwhelming and it can be really stressful, but as someone, like Fran said, who has coached at the Division I level, I was a walk-on at Rutgers University. I went on to coach high school in the Philadelphia area. I went on to coach at Lehigh University, then Cornell University, then Indiana University, and then back to a private high school, and now doing this consulting. You can see how it can be stressful, but it also can be really exciting and fun if you're leveraging what you know and how you know it, and then taking that to the next level. And so Brian did a fantastic job, I thought, just really being articulate and sharing how it can be hard. But I think Andrea can probably speak from the coach's perspective, how if it's done well, it can be really fun and fairly easy for you to find your right fit based on getting to know that process. And that's what really we do, is just helping people understand the process better. But I'm sure Andrea, as a coach, could say a few things about how people sometimes come across her desk in maybe the not ideal way, because perhaps they aren't a good fit, or perhaps maybe they have certain things that don't match up. Andrea, I'll let you speak to that.
Sure. No, I was just going to piggyback. You know, he did a really great job articulating, like you said, just what the values are, what you want to take away from your college time. And that's something that we definitely emphasized in my first year at Holy Cross. It was just, enjoying the process. There's only one first place finisher, maybe second medals, maybe not, so you really can't put all of your coins into that piggy bank, in terms of, did I win, did I not? The process is super important. I enjoy talking about my time as an athlete to my current athletes. Just, you don't remember the medals. Maybe you might remember one really great race, but you don't remember the medals. You don't remember feeling like you're going to black out 1,200 meters in. You really remember.
And you rode at UMass with my friend Jim Dietz, right?
I did, yeah. I walked on as well, similar to the ladies on here. Yeah.
And he was the women's coach, and I believe, until he retired.
Yeah, 4 years
ago.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful man. He definitely preached the joy of rowing, and pulling out the life lessons in our sport, which I try to instill in my athletes.
And I was telling you, and we checked in yesterday, I think he, and you probably, learned from him too, that just to focus on the individual, and not like compare and stuff. It's just, I love it when I get his coaching, because he could coach any elite athlete, and here I am, he's just focusing on me, So that's really nice.
I think a big part for the people that are probably listening, the parents and the students, the takeaway from this is, while it is an individual process for you, you are looking to place yourself at the right fit. And so you have your individual needs, but you're going to have to figure out how your individual needs fit that big, large scale, kind of recruiting beast as it may be. If you're looking to be recruited actively, and it sounds like Brian did a good job managing his expectations, but perhaps had he looked at himself as a contributor to the team, or he had been able to interface with the coach earlier, he may have had a relationship with the coach before getting invited to try out for the team that would have helped make him feel a little bit more secure in his decision to go. It's not a critique, but it is an observation that you can use recruitment and or just looking at the different universities through the lens of rowing as a way to filter out the schools that you are choosing or not choosing. And that relationship really helps narrow down that campus for you, because otherwise, I'm sure all of us can attest, schools start to look like cafeterias, gyms, classrooms, and dorms, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, Andrea, I was going to ask you, like, what's the best way for a high school athlete to reach out to a coach at a college they might want to go to? You know, is that a direct thing, or should you go through your guidance counselor, or what?
Either one. I would definitely say to promote yourself as often as you can. You know, with all the recruiting rules out there, there's a giant Bible worth of NCAA rules surrounding all of this stuff. But Chapter 13 specifically talks about recruiting, and they can reach out at any time. They can cold call, they can email. The key part is that coaches are limited to when they can reply. So, you know, June 15th is that sweet date leading into their sophomore into junior year that you can begin to reach out. So those that are the 2023s will begin to do that in a couple of weeks here. And so, yeah, reaching out at any point, I would definitely advocate for the student to reach out. Not mom, not dad, you know, not the guidance counselor. That's just part of that life process of being a little more confident in your skin and going through those nervous bouts. You know, I'm not a big fan of public speaking.
You're doing really well, by the way.
Yeah, the more you do things, the more comfortable and confident you are. So definitely having a student athlete and promoting them to reach out is a great way. Email is a great way. You know, it's the beginning process of reaching out is kind of like figuring out what information you want to present. You know, for us, we only know sometimes what the recruiting profile will bring you, which is not a lot of information. You know, every single student athlete pretty much has a recruiting profile, just as every student athlete can go on a college website and just see the basics of the college from the website. It doesn't tell you the whole picture. So just initiating that dialogue with a really short, brief, succinct, hi, I'm so-and-so, and some quick stats, and opening up the dialogue with that coach is a really important thing. So
and showing that you know something about the college, right?
That was my next point, right?
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
I can't tell you, I'm sure these two can attest to this as well, how many student athletes will reply, or not reply, they'll initiate the conversation with, you know, X school is my number one choice. And you can kind of get the vibe of if they're emailing a lot of the same school, the same place email or not. So we want to know if you're really invested in the school or not to respond back immediately.
Fran and Carmen, any what would you say, like, the most, maybe 3 or 4 most important steps of college, say sophomore, when they're starting to look at colleges and they're an athlete, they know they have some ability. What would you say that they should be doing in that time frame?
Well, I think the first thing that we recommend to students is they find what we call their facts. So basically, that's all the information about them, things like their financials, their academic area of interest, the values of a college that are important to them, the kind of aspects of a college that they find, things like the weather, things like how far from home, those types of things, that they kind of look for that information in themselves, as well as what kind of team they're looking to be on. So are they looking to be a leader? Are they looking to be just a contributor? Are they looking to compete to win NCAAs? Are they looking to develop mastery of the sport? So the first thing I think we ask is our students to really explore those things so that they can then find where they're going to be a good fit, because for us, it's all about their fit. So I think that's kind of our starting point for our students.
Do you find that kids sometimes come and they say, you know, I'm really good at rowing and I want to go to a D1 school, and, you know, that's my goal? And how do you sort of like widen their scope of possibilities?
Well, the interesting thing is that
hopes.
not all D1 schools are created equally. So a D1 school oftentimes can be a place where someone who maybe doesn't have the top ERG score on their team, they can still walk onto that team, and or that team isn't as competitive as the next D1. So getting to really know the level of competition is going to be important. But yeah, we do help them explore who they are and maybe some of the areas of academic interest, because that's a huge one, right? So as Fran said, going through what we call the facts, and that is a really great way to just pinpoint either a region of the country or the size of the school, or, you know, the competitive nature of that team, and or your competitiveness of what you're able to offer that team. I think, you know, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And I think sometimes it seems to athletes, it's this magic formula. I have to be X tall, X fast. And that's just not always the case. And being able to scratch that surface a little bit and get to know the tenor of the school is really huge. And not to think of it as boxes to check off per se, but rather actually feel those places, know those students, you know, really getting to know, just like you would if you were just looking at it as a college, not just a rowing atmosphere.
Right. And
That's definitely something I think that's really important for us to do, is to kind of widen the scope of where students are looking. Because a lot of times, kids are really focused on this type of place, or, you know, these couple of schools, because they're kind of like the fancy label, the brand name. And we really encourage our students to look outside the box and explore a lot of different levels, a lot of different varieties of schools, so that they really can find what's important to them and where they're going to fit in the best. So
even if you go to the Olympics, you're not going to be an elite athlete forever. It just doesn't happen.
Exactly. And that's one of the things we
You
remind
might be a coach like Andrea, or you might have, you know, bring that Olympic experience to bear. But it seems like, you know, just getting kids to kind of look that far ahead must be a challenge. And
there was always a quote that a coach I worked with years ago would say, perception versus reality. I think it's really important for kids to know what you guys are both saying right now. Division I, II, and III in club, you know, they're very different, but Division I, there's this perception that it's just glorified version of what you're currently doing. There's more benefits, there's more gear, there's higher caliber rowing. And to some extent, a little bit of that's true, right, for some of those crews. But definitely where you're supposed to be ending up and where your skill sets are supposed to be best made and have the best academic experience, you know, is really, really important. So asking those smaller questions about yourself, especially during COVID when we're home and we're just enjoying, what things did you miss about it? You know, did you miss getting up really early? Did you miss sleeping in? Were you more productive when you slept in? Maybe you should look for a crew that rows in the afternoon. Did you get small boat rowing? You know, does the program you're looking at have small boat rowing? Is that something that's important to you, especially post-college? When most of us are not going off to the Olympic level rowing. So yeah, a lot of those things that you missed during COVID as athletes and parents listening now, you know, those are the things I think that should be important at the top of your list when you're looking at these schools and finding that best fit.
Got it. Yeah. We have about 5 minutes left, but is there, we can go a little over if we need to, but as far as the major pitfalls and things that cause anxiety, what are some things to look for and to head off in the college application process if you're an athlete? Carmen or Fran, you got a thought about that?
Charlotte, you ask such great questions, and it's really nice to be able to have the audience to speak to it. I think that they're not simple answers. Oftentimes they're not just sound bites, and that I think each of us is probably going to be able to contribute to this. One of the things that I can remember sitting at the desk of these Division I schools is that some of these athletes were fantastic humans, and that they probably were getting dreams crushed at times if I wasn't going to actively reach out to them. And that's not something that you can base your very person on. You and your existence and who you are should not be measured against an admissions office or a school recruitment process. You have so much to offer life. You have so much to offer your academic area of interest that you have to make sure that you are matching yourself with the right places. So I think a hurdle, but also maybe a snafu, is parents wanting to see their kids at a shiny, sparkly name so they can hold a flag up for an Instagram shot is really not, this is not what it's about. And you really have to take a step back and evaluate, who are you? What do you want? Is it your parents going to school? And is it really going to matter at the end of the day? Or have the things that you've already put in process, the amount of time you've spent on a machine, the amount of time you've spent exploring a passion of yours, are those things really going to matter? Fran, Andrea?
I think in terms of practical tips, I mean, I think Carmen's right on in terms of just keeping the whole process in perspective, because it can be really stressful and the kids are getting a lot of feedback from social media, especially, and that can be really difficult. But as a reminder, just to stay true to yourself and remember that the goal is finding some place that's going to be good for you to develop and grow as a human, as a person over 4 years is kind of the end goal. But in terms of the practical side of things, we recommend starting early. So essays are always a big thing, getting your essay written. And we recommend taking a look at the Common Core essay questions as early as your junior year, and just start jotting down ideas, figuring out what experiences you've had that might be good to write about for your essay, things that are really going to showcase who you are as a person, your values, your personal characteristics, compelling experiences that have changed you, that kind of thing. So I think that's kind of our biggest tip. And I will say, on a personal note, I remember my poor mother trying to get me to write my essays like the night before they were due. Don't make that mistake. Start early. The whole process. It's much easier if you give yourself time to do it, and time to do it well.
Which brings me to actually our final sort of question, how parents can support their student athlete. I know I have 2 kids. My oldest, I made all the mistakes in helping them. The second one, a little bit better. Maybe if I'd had 3 or 4 kids, I would have been, baseline. But any other, besides just giving them that time, helping them explore their interests?
I think definitely helping them explore their interests, as well as helping them mobilize any resources that they need, both internal resources and external resources that they need to accomplish this process. And what we like to remind our parents for sure is, in addition to those types of kind of practical help, that they really are there just to be a calm, steadfast presence as their kids are kind of sorting through all this noise that's coming at them, and just remind them to stay true to themselves in the process, remind them to find what's going to fit them, remind them of the end goal being someplace that they're going to grow and develop and be successful and happy over 4 years. And what we like to remind our students also is that rowing is one piece of that. It's not the totality. So they're looking at a total package, someplace where they're going to be fulfilled in all aspects of their personality, with rowing being one of those things. And that's a great thing for parents to remind them, remind their student.
And Andrea, do you see any parents sort of coming to college with their kids and trying to kind of move them along in the rowing program? Or
yeah, for sure. And you know what? I don't blame them anymore. I've got a 2-year-old now, so I feel like I'm going to follow her through her entire life. No, I'm kidding. It's I think it's a good thing. It means they're passionate about their kids. I definitely think being organized, just piggybacking on some of the answers here, being really organized early on is very important. Different colleges had different timelines for admissions, ED1 versus ED2 versus regular. Sometimes you talk to the coach, sometimes you talk to the financial aid counselor more. There's a lot of little smaller details that kind of occur, especially right in the beginning of their senior year. So just talking to your kids and staying organized, I preach a 10-5-3 rule that usually applies to most kids, which is find your top 10 by June 1st, your top 5 by September 1st, and your top 3 by November 1st. And if you have more than that, there's probably not enough research being done to figure out, so just trying to gather all of your thoughts, from your previous teammates from your high school, what advice they have, to different coaches, talking to recruiting agents such as these 2 here. There's a lot of different things and information that you gather over the course of that time. Staying organized with a good journal is important. Having mom and dad kind of circle back with that. Hey, what is our timeline? When do you want decisions by?
Oh, I know it's a tricky business, though, man.
And visit campuses. The dead period for NCAA ends in another week here.
Okay. We will put all these tips in our show notes. We have a final. Each one of you can just maybe pick a takeaway that you would hope people, parents and students, bring from this session and from the college application experience.
I know for me, I think the biggest takeaway is that it's super important to preserve your relationship with your student. and that you're not saying goodbye to them, and that the easier you make this process for them, meaning if you work in tandem with them, the better you're going to be able to preserve that relationship with them. And that's really important at the end of the day. And if it means hiring someone to tell them the things that you would like them to hear, I think that's beneficial too. But ultimately, just making sure that you are on the same page as your student, and you're not putting your student in places that maybe that's not theirs.
Yeah. Great. Anyone else?
I think my final takeaway would be Carmen and I had alluded to the facts earlier on. And the reason that we really push that as the starting point, or the reason we really encourage our students and families to start there, is because that's really going to allow both you and the coaches of the teams that you're looking to join. It's to allow them and you to know that you have been able to find someplace where you fit in for a total of 4 years. So it's for you and the coach to know that you've done the research to find someplace you're going to be successful and happy over a 4-year course of study.
Got it. Yeah.
I'd say the biggest thing is encourage the student athletes that are looking to row in college to go visit the campus, but more explicitly to speak with the current student athletes. If you really want to get a real well-rounded sense of the demands of being a student athlete with academics and athletics, getting a sense for the coach and how the athletes work with the coaches, getting a sense for how long it takes to get from the farthest point of campus to the other end, and time for breakfast and lunch, and fueling as a student athlete. All those little pieces that kind of create the image of what it is and the demands that it is to be a student athlete. I think the best thing you can do is talk to the current student athletes, and coaches are more than happy to facilitate most of the time, those dialogues with the current student athletes. So
good point.
It's important.
Well, this has been so, amazing. I wish I talked to you all just in general before my kids applied to college, but we do what we can. And thank you for coming. And let's make sure we get the all the contact information for your organizations is in the show notes, piercepress.com/rowing2college. And let me close it out with a thank you for all of you this is a great contribution, I think, to.
Thank you. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
a lot.
hosting
It was
us.
great to be here.
You're welcome. And I will just do some final housekeeping. The production company is piercepress.com, and Ready Row USA is the blog posts, have all the show notes, and they're there on the podcast section. I would like to brag about a couple of children's books I've published. We got a first place for Who's Hiding in This Book. It's a book about diverse, famous authors. It's a really nice book, and we just got the award late last year. We're doing another children's book on saving the oceans. So this book is called Oceans Alive, and this little kid in a kilt, he flies around collaborating to save right environmental wrongs and save the oceans and forests and things. So it's fun. We have always welcome rowing clubs to send in their news. So it doesn't matter how trivial you think it is, or if you've hired somebody or built a boathouse or you got another shell or something, just send in your notes, your announcement, and we will highlight it on the podcast and in our show notes and our blog and our different social media platforms. We also have a gadgets and gear. We do about 4 times a year. We do a special on rowing gadgets and gear, and we all have our favorites. I think this is one of my favorites pictured here. It's the Concept 2 phone bracket for the rowing machine, and it costs $5. So, why not get one? Thanks again. You guys are the best, and we will we'll revisit the topic at another time, maybe another aspect of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For having
And
us.
thanks to Samara Jones
Fantastic.
back
Thank
there
you so much.
for running our tech. You were the greatest. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.